Erica Brooks stood just outside the decorative wrought iron gates of the Oak Ridge Estates Community Center, her hand tightly wrapped around her daughter Hazel's. The sound of music and laughter echoed beyond the fence, children shouting joyfully, adults chatting over lemonade, and upbeat pop songs playing through rented speakers. Colorful balloons danced in the spring breeze, and a banner fluttered above the entrance. "Welcome to the Spring Splash Bash." Hazel's eyes sparkled as she looked through the gate, her sunflower dress flaring slightly as she leaned forward in her motorized wheelchair. She held a handmade team flag, one she'd spent days painting, with little birds, suns, and her name in glitter. Erica smiled down at her, relieved to see her daughter excited again after so many hard weeks. But that joy evaporated the moment they approached the security table. A man in a pressed polo shirt and earpiece flipped through a clipboard, then looked up blankly. "Sorry, you're not on the list," he said, without even glancing at Hazel. Erica blinked. "That can't be right. We RSVP'd weeks ago. We even brought cupcakes." The man shrugged, unmoved. Before Erica could press further, a familiar voice sliced through the air like a knife dipped in honey. "Oh, I'm so sorry for the confusion." Darla Whitmore approached from inside the gate, smile wide, sunglasses perched on her carefully styled hair. She looked down at Hazel, then up at Erica, her expression painfully polite. "We just made a last-minute decision with the planning team. We thought it would be best if Hazel didn't participate today." Erica's stomach twisted. "What?" Darla gestured vaguely toward the field beyond the gate, where children were lining up for relay races. "It's a very active day. Lots of moving parts. We didn't want her to feel overwhelmed or slow things down for the other kids." For a moment, everything stopped. Erica felt the heat rush to her face, the roar of blood in her ears. Hazel, still clutching her team flag, looked up at her mother, eyes wide with confusion. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Erica knelt beside her, voice shaking. "No, baby. You did everything right." But Hazel's hand slowly dropped the flag to her lap. Inside the gate, the music resumed, the party rolled on. And outside, a child who just wanted to belong sat in silence, watching the world carry on without her. Darla offered a tight smile. "We hope you understand. It's nothing personal." Erica stood, jaw clenched. "It's entirely personal." And as she turned Hazel's chair around and walked them back down the sidewalk, Erica vowed that this would not be the end of it. Her daughter deserved more than exclusion hidden behind fake smiles. And now the fight was on. If you asked me to describe Hazel in one word, it wouldn't be disabled. It would be radiant. From the moment she was born, she lit up every room with her curiosity and that impossibly wide grin. As a toddler, she was a whirlwind, always singing, dancing, scribbling songs in her notebook, even before she could spell. For a while, everything felt normal, joyous, even, but things started to change when she was 5. She began tripping more often. Her legs seemed weaker. At first, I chalked it up to growth spurts, clumsiness, anything but something serious. Then one day, she fell walking from the couch to the kitchen and couldn't get up. That day changed everything. Doctors, tests, specialists. I remember the sterile hospital room, the way the neurologist's face shifted before he spoke the words, "Your daughter has muscular dystrophy." I barely heard the rest. My heart was hammering too loud in my ears. It was a form called limb-girdle MD, progressive and cruel. Over time, her muscles would weaken, especially in her hips, legs, and shoulders. There was no cure, just therapy, braces, and eventually wheels. Hazel didn't cry when I told her. She looked at me with those big brown eyes and said, "So, I'll just do everything sitting down now?" I broke down in the hallway when she wasn't looking. We adapted. Weekly physical therapy sessions, water exercises, a rotating schedule of braces and supports. When she turned 7, we got her first wheelchair. I was terrified it would crush her spirit. But Hazel just gave it a name, Zippy, and asked if we could paint it blue with gold stars. She never saw it as the end of anything, only a new way to move. What did hurt her, what still hurts her, is the world around her. Classmates who treated her like glass. Teachers who forgot to save her a front row seat. Strangers who spoke to me about her instead of to her. And the worst, people who smiled kindly while slowly, subtly closing doors. We moved to Oak Ridge Estates 2 years ago, lured by its glossy brochures promising inclusive family living and accessible design. The sidewalks were smooth. The playground had a ramp. The saleswoman even assured me the HOA held community-first values. But from the moment we arrived, Hazel felt like a guest in her own neighborhood. Birthday parties came and went without invitations. When she rolled up to the bus stop, the other kids fell silent. At the pool, Darla once approached me and said, "It's wonderful how she still wants to try. So brave." It was meant to sound supportive, but it wasn't. Hazel understood more than people realized. She started staying inside more, kept her headphones on longer. She still sang, but only in her room. She still drew birds, but now she taped the pictures inside her closet. She asked me once, "Why do people act like I'm made of cardboard?" I didn't have an answer. Still, she remained resilient. Her wheelchair became an extension of her personality, covered in flower decals, musical notes, and a sticker that said, "My pace, my race." She started a bird journal tracking robins and finches from our kitchen window. She took voice lessons. She still smiled, still hoped. So when the HOA announced the spring splash bash, Hazel lit up like it was Christmas morning. "Mom," she said, eyes wide, "I'm going to be on a team. I'm going to help win something." She spent days designing her flag, carefully painting each bird. She practiced maneuvering her chair around cones, trying to go faster without bumping. She even told me she wanted to sing the national anthem if they needed a volunteer. I saw something return to her, a sense of belonging. And I let myself believe, just for a moment, that maybe this community had room for her after all. But I was wrong. Because when Darla looked at my daughter at the gates of that party and said she would slow people down, she wasn't just rejecting her from a race. She was telling Hazel that no matter how much effort she gave, no matter how much she prepared, she would always be seen as less. And that's what I refuse to let stand. Darla Whitmore never raised her voice. She didn't have to. Her power came from the way she controlled a room with a smile, so fixed, it might as well have been painted on porcelain. She was the vice president of the Oak Ridge Estates HOA, a role she had lobbied for under the guise of neighborhood pride. But everyone knew Darla didn't care about community. She cared about control. Every morning, she power walked the streets of the neighborhood like it was her own personal runway, clad in matching designer athleisure sets and pristine white sneakers. She greeted people with chirpy good mornings and air kisses, but behind her wide sunglasses, her eyes were always calculating, watching, noticing, judging. She was the kind of woman who could compliment your flower beds and issue a violation notice in the same breath. "Your petunias are so charming this year. By the way, your garbage bin was visible from the street at 8:05 a.m. on Tuesday." Her HOA newsletters were equal parts peppy and punitive, often starting with cheery seasonal greetings before launching into stern reminders about hedge height compliance and aesthetically disruptive elements like children's toys left on porches. At first, I tried to get along with her. I even attended one of the HOA's Get to Know Your Neighbors brunches. But Darla never really tried to know us. She didn't ask about Hazel's condition, didn't inquire about accessibility needs. Instead, she smiled tightly at Hazel's wheelchair and said, "Oh, you've got a little set of wheels, huh? I bet that's fun." That was just the beginning. There was the time Darla kindly suggested Hazel sit out of the community yoga class because the instructor's pace might be too advanced for her. Or the time she blocked off Hazel's favorite ramp path during the Easter egg hunt to keep the terrain fair. Always smiling, always concerned. It was never outright hostility. That was Darla's genius. It was soft discrimination wrapped in kindness. We just want everyone to enjoy themselves. We're thinking about the group. Let's not make anyone uncomfortable. But what she really meant was, let's not make anyone see disability. And the board? They never challenged her. Not once. Most of the HOA meetings were quiet affairs with low attendance, exactly how Darla liked it. The few who tried to voice disagreement were met with red tape, passive-aggressive notes about dues, or worse, social isolation. No one wanted to be on Darla's bad side. So they nodded, smiled, agreed to policies that quietly pushed out anyone who didn't blend in. She surrounded herself with a small circle of like-minded board members, retired professionals, and stay-at-home lifestyle directors who saw community events as their personal stage. Everything had to be high-energy, photo-friendly, fast-paced. There was no room in that vision for a little girl with a mobility device. No patience for pauses, accommodations, or difference. And while they called it keeping standards high, what they were really doing was drawing a line and keeping kids like Hazel on the other side. So when Darla blocked my daughter from entering the spring splash bash, it didn't surprise me. It wasn't the first time she erased Hazel. But it would be the last time she did it without consequences. Hazel had been counting down the days to the spring splash bash like it was her birthday, Christmas, and the 4th of July all rolled into one. It wasn't just another neighborhood gathering to her, it was a chance to be part of something, a chance to show the other kids she could do more than watch from the sidelines, a chance to belong. The moment the flyer hit their mailbox, Hazel was already planning. Mom, she had said, her eyes glowing, it's a team day. I could make our team flag. I'll paint birds on it. She sketched ideas that night in her journal, songbirds, dandelions, swirls of color. She named the team the Soaring Sparrows. Erica couldn't help but smile at the thought. For once, her daughter wasn't anxious about fitting in. She was excited about being seen. Erica, cautiously hopeful, did what she always did, prepared in advance. She sent an email to the HOA asking for details. Would there be wheelchair-friendly paths? Would there be breaks between events for kids with stamina issues? Would the games be inclusive? The reply came from the HOA's general account, likely penned or filtered by Darla herself. It read, "We're proud to host a family-friendly event that welcomes everyone. All participants will have fun in a safe, energetic environment." That was it. No specifics. No commitment. Just a sugar-coated dismissal. But Hazel didn't notice. She was too busy baking cupcakes, vanilla with lemon frosting and tiny bird-shaped sprinkles. For our snack table, she said proudly. She even made little name cards that said, Team Sparrows, Hazel's table. Every afternoon after school, she practiced maneuvering Zippy, her wheelchair, around cones in the driveway. She timed herself. I'm going to zoom through the course, she giggled, sweat beading on her brow, but determination on her face. I bet I'll beat the boys. At night, she laid out her outfit, a sunflower yellow dress, matching ribbons, and the brand new sneakers she insisted on wearing even if she couldn't walk far. They'll help me go faster, she whispered. Erica watched it all with a mix of pride and dread. She wanted so badly for Hazel to have this, to taste the joy that came from being included without caveats. But she also knew Darla. Knew the way that woman could turn a celebration into exclusion with just a few words spoken behind a plastic smile. Still, Erica pushed the fear down. Because Hazel believed in this. The night before the event, Hazel barely slept. She rehearsed her flag-waving motion in bed, humming a little cheer she wrote herself. Sparrows fly, fast and bright. Even wheels can win the fight. When morning came, Hazel was the first one dressed. She had Poppy, her plush bird mascot, perched on her lap, her cupcakes packed carefully in a container, and her flag rolled under one arm. Do you think they'll have music? She asked as Erica loaded the car. Probably, Erica said with a soft smile. And if they don't, we'll bring our own joy. Hazel beamed. In her heart, Erica hoped this would be the moment Hazel finally felt seen not as the girl in the chair, but as Hazel, the teammate, the artist, the firecracker she truly was. Neither of them knew what was waiting behind those community center gates. But Hazel had arrived ready, for joy, for acceptance, for her place in the team. And that made what happened next even more cruel. Hazel couldn't stop smiling as they drove to the community center that morning. Her sunflower dress fluttered with every bounce of her chair, and her fingernails, painted a cheerful yellow the night before, tapped excitedly on her lap. She had Poppy, her plush bird, nestled beside her flag, and the scent of vanilla cupcakes filled the car like a promise. "Do you think they'll play that song I like, the one with the clapping part?" she asked. Erica glanced at her in the rearview mirror and smiled. "If they don't, we'll clap louder." As they pulled into the parking lot, Hazel waved at a few neighborhood kids already darting around the entrance. A group of parents stood chatting beneath the welcome banner, holding coffee cups and wearing matching shirts with team names. Hazel held up her homemade flag proudly. "We're the Soaring Sparrows, Mom. We've got this." But the moment they reached the front gate, the atmosphere shifted. A man in a polo shirt stood at a folding table, clipboard in hand, earpiece in place. Erica offered her best war mom smile. "Hi there, we're with Team Sparrows, Erica and Hazel Brooks." He flipped through his list, frowning slightly. "Don't see that team name here." "Oh," Erica said, keeping her tone calm. "I sent an RSVP weeks ago. I even emailed the HOA to confirm. Maybe check again." The man hesitated, then stepped aside to make a quick call. Moments later, Darla Whitmore emerged from the party crowd, her crisp white capris spotless, her HOA badge pinned like a sheriff's star. She wore a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Erica, Hazel, so glad you made it. Can I talk to you for a moment? Over here, please?" Hazel clutched her flag a little tighter. Erica wheeled her daughter slightly away and leaned down. "Stay right here, honey. I'll just be a second." Darla pulled Erica a few feet away and lowered her voice. "Listen, I want you to know this was a really hard call. We were finalizing team structures last night, and the board agreed we needed to maintain flow, relay transitions, team pace, timing, all of that. It's a very active day, you understand?" Erica's eyebrows drew together. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying it's probably best if Hazel doesn't participate this time. We don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable or to be a disruption to the event. It's not personal." Erica stiffened. "Not personal? You're excluding my daughter from a neighborhood event because she uses a wheelchair." "It's about fairness," Darla said, her tone sweetened by condescension. "These kids have been practicing. There's a rhythm to the activities. We don't want anyone getting frustrated. We're thinking of everyone." From behind her, a soft voice broke through the tension. "Mom, did I mess things up?" Hazel was looking at them, her smile gone, her flag drooping in her lap. Erica's heart cracked in half. She turned to Darla, venom under her breath. "You're unbelievable." "I'm just following the board's consensus," Darla replied with a shrug. "I'm sure Hazel can still enjoy watching from the sidelines. We've got lemonade and crafts." Hazel looked down at her lap. "But I wanted to race." Other parents nearby started to notice. A few shifted uncomfortably. One mother leaned in toward her husband and whispered. A kid from Hazel's school looked at her, confused, then turned away. Erica dropped to one knee beside her daughter. "You didn't do anything wrong, Hazel. Do you hear me? Nothing. This isn't your fault." Hazel's lower lip trembled. "But they don't want me." Erica swallowed hard. She hugged Hazel tightly, flag and all. "They don't deserve you," she whispered. Without another word, she helped turn Hazel's chair and began to walk them back toward the car, ignoring Darla's chirped, "Have a nice day." They didn't speak on the way home. Hazel stared out the window, cupcakes still untouched on her lap. As they pulled into the driveway, she said in a flat voice, "I don't want to go to any more parties here." Erica's hands clenched around the steering wheel. Her eyes stung. "Okay," she said softly, "but we're not going to let this go." Hazel nodded once, her voice small. "I just wanted to be on a team." And that's when Erica knew this wasn't just about one event. It was about every moment Hazel had been made to feel like a burden instead of a child. And someone was going to answer for that. Back home, the silence in the house was louder than any tantrum Hazel could have thrown. Erica held the door open as Hazel rolled herself inside slowly, her sunflower dress rumpled, and her hands still sticky from tears. She didn't speak. She didn't even look at Erica. She just went straight to the living room, set the cupcake box on the table, and then, without a word, lifted her hand-painted flag and tore it in two. The sound of the rip was soft but brutal. Hazel didn't cry. That's what broke Erica the most. Her daughter just tossed the shredded flag into the trash bin and wheeled away, disappearing into her room without closing the door. Poppy, the plush bird who usually never left her lap, was left on the floor, abandoned like the rest of the day's dreams. Erica stood in the kitchen, frozen, her fingers curled tightly around the countertop. She stared at the flag in the garbage, half of a bird's wing hanging over the side. Her hands trembled, heart pounding not just with sadness now, but rage. Hazel refused dinner that night. She didn't sing. She didn't draw. She turned off the bird call app she loved so much and pulled her blankets over her head like she wanted to disappear. Erica sat at the edge of her bed and whispered, "You didn't deserve that, baby. No one gets to make you feel like you don't belong." Hazel's reply came, muffled and barely audible. "They didn't even want me to watch." That was the breaking point. Erica walked out of the room, shut the door gently behind her, and went straight to her laptop. No more polite emails. No more waiting for Darla's empty reassurances or the HOA's vague replies. She opened a blank page and began to type. She wrote every detail. How Hazel had planned for weeks, practiced in her wheelchair, baked cupcakes, painted flags. How she had been so ready to be part of something. And how Darla Whitmore, with her smile like ice, had told her she'd slow everyone down. She described the way Hazel's face fell, how she held back tears in front of her peers, how she threw away the symbol of her effort like it was nothing. Erica didn't sugarcoat a single word. She titled the post, "Not Fast Enough for the HOA, How My Daughter Was Banned for Needing a Wheelchair." Then she hit publish, and she didn't stop there. She opened a second tab and began researching disability rights attorneys. Another tab for the Department of Housing's discrimination complaint form. Another for the local news tip submission page. Erica wasn't just angry anymore. She was done being silent. If Darla thought excluding Hazel would go unnoticed, she was about to find out just how loud a mother could be when she'd had enough. The post Erica published, titled "Banned for Being Slow," was raw, personal, and unapologetic. It told the story not just of a little girl excluded from a community event, but of a pattern, a culture, and a quiet cruelty that had hidden behind HOA policies and polite smiles for far too long. Within hours of going live, the post was shared across local parent groups. Within a day, it had been picked up by a regional parenting blog. By the end of the week, it was viral. Comments poured in by the hundreds. This made me sob. No child deserves to feel this way. Our HOA did something similar when my son brought his cane to the pool party. They said my daughter with epilepsy scared other kids and asked us not to come back. Stories poured in from across the country. Different names, different towns, but always the same theme. Invisibility, exclusion, shame disguised as policy. The hashtag not too slow started trending. Erica hadn't expected any of it. She thought maybe a few sympathetic moms would rally behind her. Maybe the board would be forced to send out a lukewarm apology. But what she had tapped into was deeper. This was righteous anger, collective exhaustion. People weren't just hearing Hazel's story, they were seeing themselves, their children, their wounds in it. That same week, Erica was contacted by Angela Rivas, a civil rights attorney specializing in ADA violations. Angela had read the post and immediately recognized the violations: refusal to accommodate, targeted exclusion, emotional harm to a child with a documented disability. The Americans with Disabilities Act and the Fair Housing Act provided clear protection against this kind of discrimination. With Angela's help, Erica filed a formal complaint with the Department of Housing and Urban Development HUD against both Darla Whitmore and the Oak Ridge Estates HOA. The documentation was meticulous: emails, photos, the video Erica managed to obtain from another parent showing Hazel being turned away. Every word Darla had said at the gate was transcribed. But the real breakthrough came when other neighbors began to speak up. One woman shared that her teenage son, who had autism, had once been excluded from a community karaoke night because his humming made others uncomfortable. Another elderly resident, who used a walker, revealed she had been told not to attend a line dancing class because of insurance concerns. Angela compiled the stories into a powerful case file. Erica also contacted the local news station, who agreed to run a feature on the story. The segment aired during prime time. Footage of Hazel baking cupcakes, clips from Erica's blog, and an on-camera interview with Hazel herself. "I just wanted to play with the other kids," Hazel said, voice quiet but steady. "But they didn't let me. They said I would mess it up." The image of her, sunflower dress, big brown eyes, tugged at the hearts of everyone watching. That night, 3 members of the HOA board resigned. The next morning, the Oak Ridge Estates HOA issued a rushed, awkwardly worded statement of regret. They claimed it had all been a miscommunication, that they were reviewing procedures, and that inclusion remained a core value. But no one bought it. Erica responded with another blog post titled, "Core Values Don't Shatter Children." The pressure kept building. A disability rights organization sent a petition to the HOA demanding Darla's removal. Within 48 hours, it had over 30,000 signatures. Parents began organizing community meetings independent of the HOA. Some of them, who had once nodded along to Darla's every idea, now realized how complicit their silence had been. And Darla? She tried to hold her ground, released a short video claiming she was being unfairly targeted and that she loved all children. But someone leaked an internal email sent just days before the event where Darla wrote, "We need to keep things flowing. Let's not let the wheelchair slow down the entire show." That was the final straw. Angela submitted the email as evidence in the complaint. HUD launched an investigation, and the board, facing mounting legal pressure and public outrage, voted to formally suspend Darla Whitmore from any decision-making position. Erica didn't dance in celebration. She sat on the porch that night, with Hazel beside her, watching the sun dip low behind the oak trees. Hazel held Poppy again. The bird was patched now, stitched back together by Erica's loving hands. "They're listening now," Hazel said. Erica nodded. "They are, because you were brave." But inside, Erica knew this wasn't the end of the story. It was the start of something far bigger. The firestorm that followed was unlike anything Oak Ridge Estates had ever seen. After the local news segment aired, Erica's inbox flooded with messages from journalists, advocates, and families from all over the country. The image of Hazel, her quiet voice explaining how she just wanted to race with the other kids, had struck a nerve. People didn't just sympathize, they were outraged. Hashtags like hashtag Let Hazel Race, hashtag Not Too Slow, and hashtag Inclusion is Not Optional began trending on social media. National disability rights groups, including the ADA Coalition, the ARC, and Moms for Mobility, amplified the story, calling it a textbook case of soft exclusion discrimination. Letters began pouring into the HOA's office. Some were from attorneys. Some were from concerned citizens. Many were from other parents in the neighborhood who had previously stayed silent, now ashamed they hadn't seen what was happening right under their noses. One family shared that their autistic son had been strongly discouraged from attending a movie night because he didn't do well with transitions. Another elderly couple recalled Darla suggesting they sit out of the summer walking challenge to not affect the team pace average. The leaked email sealed Darla's fate. Her own words, "Let's not let the wheelchair slow down the entire show," splashed across news headlines and social media tiles like a scarlet letter. It was clear this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a mindset. Under growing pressure, the HOA board called an emergency meeting. Darla didn't even show up. By unanimous vote, she was removed from her leadership role and formally censured by the board. A public statement followed shortly after. The Oak Ridge Estates Homeowners Association deeply regrets the pain caused by the recent exclusion of one of our youngest residents. We failed in our duty to provide an inclusive environment. Effective immediately, we are launching a full accessibility and anti-discrimination audit of all events, policies, and public spaces. But the apology, while necessary, did little to stop the flood of emotion sweeping the community. Protesters, neighbors, and activists alike gathered outside the community center holding signs that read, "Hazel deserves better. Inclusion is not a burden, and shame on you, Oak Ridge." Local television covered it live. Hazel watched from the living room window, her bird journal in her lap. She wasn't scared. She wasn't even sad. She was curious. Are they here for me? Erica smiled, tears in her eyes. They're here because of you. That weekend, for the first time since they'd moved in, Erica was invited to speak at a community town hall. She stood at the front of the room beside Angela, the attorney, and shared Hazel's story again, not just the pain, but the strength. She ended with a simple sentence: "Inclusion doesn't slow us down. It lifts us all up." Applause thundered through the room. And for the first time since the beginning of it all, Erica felt something real shift, not just in policies or press releases, but in people's hearts. Weeks passed and the noise slowly faded. The hashtags, the headlines, the news trucks, they all moved on to the next outrage. But something far more meaningful lingered in Oak Ridge Estates: change. It started with an unexpected email addressed to both Erica and Hazel, sent from the newly appointed interim HOA president, a retired teacher named Mr. Carlson, who had always quietly supported them from a distance. He wrote, "We've heard you. We want to do better. And we'd like Hazel's help." Hazel blinked as Erica read it aloud, unsure at first if it was real. They weren't just inviting her to attend the next community event, they were asking her to help design it. Hazel's eyes widened. "Can I really choose the games?" Erica nodded, a lump forming in her throat. "All of them, sweetheart." And she did. Hazel came alive again, pouring her energy into every detail of the new event, which she called the Great Neighborhood Quest. Instead of relay races and physical competitions, it would be a fully accessible scavenger hunt, complete with music stations, puzzle stops, birdwatching clues, and wheelchair-friendly pathways mapped out by Hazel herself. She even made sure there were quiet zones with noise-canceling headphones and rest areas, something one of her new friends with sensory sensitivities had requested. At the event, Hazel didn't just participate, she led. She rolled proudly from station to station with her microphone headset, guiding teams through riddles, giving bird facts, and cheering for every participant like a seasoned host. Her voice rang through the air, not timid, but joyful, confident. And when she sang a short song she'd written for the final ceremony, standing beside kids of every ability and background, the crowd didn't just clap, they rose to their feet. Erica stood at the back, hands covering her mouth as tears streamed freely. Her daughter, who once asked if she messed things up, was now the face of belonging. The HOA formally launched a new equity and inclusion subcommittee, and this time, Erica didn't have to fight to join it. She was invited unanimously. They worked with accessibility consultants, revised outdated policies, and began training sessions for all board members on ADA compliance and inclusive communication. Hazel's story even made it into a children's magazine, highlighting young leaders making a difference. In her interview, she said, "I didn't want anyone else to feel like I did, so I made a party where everyone wins." That one sentence said everything. Oak Ridge Estates hadn't just changed its policies, it had changed its culture. Neighbors started showing up differently. Kids asked questions instead of making assumptions. Parents encouraged empathy. And Hazel? She wasn't a side note anymore. She was a leader. And as Erica watched her daughter roll forward, sun on her face and freedom in her laughter, she realized something powerful. Hazel didn't just reclaim her place in the community. She redefined it. A few days after the event, Erica found an envelope slipped under their front door. No return address, no name, just a single sheet of paper typed in bold font. "Not everyone thinks your daughter belongs on stage. Some of us like things better before. Keep that in mind, there are still standards to protect." Attached was a photo. Hazel at the scavenger hunt finale, arms raised as she led a song, with a crude red X drawn over her face. Erica's hands trembled. The paper crumpled in her fist, her pulse pounding. Not from fear, but fury. They were trying to silence her daughter again, to shame her, intimidate her. But this time, they had no idea who they were messing with. Erica picked up her phone and dialed. "Angela, we need to talk. There's more going on here." Because for every visible battle, there's always a war waiting in the shadows, to be continued